For some background, my sister Pam, a 30-year-old woman, persuaded our parents and a number of our relatives not to attend my wedding because I was getting married while she was divorcing, and I did not sit well with her because the truth alone was insufficient to turn people against me. Now that I am pregnant and she wants to be the second mother to my child, I will not allow this to happen. My husband and I recently shared the news on social media, which is how my parents and Pam learned that I am 27 years old and in my second trimester of pregnancy. After nearly 3 years of no communication, they contacted me to make amends, citing Pam's infertility as the reason she is unable to conceive, and the fact that she has had multiple rounds of IVF so far, but none of them have produced no results for her, and she wants to keep trying because she doesn't think adoption or surrogacy is the answer at this time. They contacted me because they believe that since I'm expecting a child, it will be beneficial for me to mend my relationship with my sister so that she can spend some time with a child who is indirectly related to her through blood. They also stated that it would be beneficial for me because the child could have 2 mothers in this way, and I would also need some assistance. My parents wanted to pretend to be a happy family right now because Pam is unable to start a family of her own. I was able to see through their phony nonsense, so I told them that I would not accept their plan. It was completely insane of them to expect me to accept something like this, especially since they had even considered letting Pam return to my life and accepting them. It was just crazy talk to play mother and child with my future child. And I told them that if they wanted to make amends with me, they should have at least had the right intentions and wanted to patch things up because I'm their family and they had mistreated me, not because I'm expecting a baby. They took offense at that and claimed that they were only offering to make amends because they knew I would need all the help that I could get. I told them that I was the mother and that I already had all the help I needed from my husband and in-laws, and if they had found it easy to stay out of contact with me thus far, I would advise them to do so in the future as well. This is where I might have been. Pam was willing to volunteer for her future niece or nephew so she could spend more time with the baby. It was all completely innocent, so I had no reason to be so harsh. After that phone call, I received numerous messages from my parents, a few relatives, and of course, Pam herself. All of them told me that I needed to apologize because what I said was terrible and that I didn't need to kick people when they're already down. But the truth is that there was a reason why Pam couldn't get pregnant, and perhaps that reason was that a horrible person like her would never make a good mother. For background, Pam had already been married for 2 years when I was getting married, and she and her ex-husband had been dating for 3 years prior to their marriage. She had always known that he wanted a child-free lifestyle, and it was one of the first things she had mentioned to our parents when I proposed to them. The problem is that I still remember everything that happened before my wedding, and I really resent Pam for whatever she did. Another thing is that Pam and I have never gotten along since we were young, but she has always been our parents' beloved daughter. We used to fight a lot when we were young, but eventually we just learned to ignore each other. They had been dating for a year and had even begun talking about their future. I remember being in the room at the time, but they were acting as though I wasn't there and continuing their conversation without me. She was telling our parents that he wanted to live a childless life, but she was certain that she wanted children in the future. Eventually, it was agreed that they would talk about this again after they were married, and maybe by then, she would have been able to change his mind. However, she was unable to do so, and when she began pressuring him to have children, they began to fight frequently during family meals. She would get really upset and keep talking about how difficult it was to stay with him, but I felt that she was to blame for marrying a man who didn't share her views. He had made it clear to her early on that she had thought she could change his mind, so now that she couldn't, she had no right to blame him. Of course, I didn't say any of that because I knew it would only cause more drama. Nevertheless, after a few months of trying to trick him, I received word from my parents that Pam had returned to live with them permanently and had left her husband's home due to a major argument. At this point, there was no way to get back out of it. At the time, my husband and I had just begun paying the deposits for our wedding because we had only been engaged for a few months and had been dating for nearly 4 years. When my parents told me that Pam and her husband were divorcing, they also told me that they wanted me to postpone my wedding indefinitely because they didn't want me to offend my sister by getting married at the same time that she was divorcing. We had been waiting to be in respectable positions in our respective careers before we got married, but we had been prepared for marriage for a long time before that. They wanted me to spare her feelings by not getting married, which was probably the most insensitive and foolish thing they had ever tried to do at that point. Of course, I said that I was not going to do any of that, and that I was getting married with or without Pam's support, but I didn't care because it was already difficult for her because she had to put her plans to have a baby on hold as well. She really wanted to be a mother. I knew that my parents had a soft spot for Pam, but I didn't know that they would be willing to do something like this for her. I made peace with that too and told them that they were free to do whatever they wanted. My parents did not like the idea of me putting their beloved daughter's feelings ahead of my wedding, and they threatened to not attend if I didn't postpone it. Whatever they desired, that should have been the end of it. However, Pam decided she was unhappy with my marriage and took it upon herself to ensure that the other members of the family did not attend my wedding either. At first, she was only trying to win people over by saying that it was insensitive of me to get married while she was going through such a terrible experience. But most people only felt sorry for her, declare that they would not be attending my wedding. So she knew she needed to do more to get people to actively boycott it. As I mentioned earlier, since the truth was not contentious enough, she chose to start spreading rumors about me, claiming that I was the one who had been persuading her husband to leave her, because, presumably, I was envious of her and couldn't bear the fact that I've never been friends with her husband, so I doubt she would have married him if he had ever been close to me. However, for some reason, people began to believe that she had been telling them that I had been manipulating him to leave her and persuading him that he had a better life waiting for him. The rumors that she was going to become a mother before me were pretty absurd. I had hardly ever interacted with my brother-in-law during his time married to Pam, but I suppose she lied so firmly that people began to believe her, and when I sent out the invitations, many people declined. And I already knew why they were declining. It seems that I was also to blame for his refusal to have children, because I was the one who had claimed that a childless lifestyle was the way to go in this generation. I was not surprised to see that no one had given any explanations because a few cousins and other family members who had been on my inside had told me what Pam had been saying about me. The only relatives who had attended my wedding were a few cousins and a few others. Everyone else was either a friend or a co-worker. However, the bride's side of the family's attendance was just depressing. I recall being very upset about everything. I knew that I could try to tell people the truth in the weeks before the wedding, but they had already made up their minds, and some of them had blocked me. Besides, it would be my word against hers, so I didn't even bother. Fortunately, on the wedding day, my husband, friends, and in-laws were there to lift my spirits and make sure I had so much fun that I barely cared. That so many members of my family were not present, but even though I had a good time on my wedding day, it doesn't mean that I've forgiven Pam for her actions at the time. Her actions were cruel and crazy, and it was very typical of her to make sure I wasn't happy because she couldn't get her way about something. Most people grow out of their childhood habits, especially when they are in their late 20s. But I suppose I can't say the same for her, so I cut off all communication with her and my parents after that incident, and I became even more resentful of them a year later, when I first saw Pam's ex-husband following their divorce. I recall that one day when my husband and I were out to lunch, we noticed Pam's ex-husband eating lunch with a few of his co-workers. It was a little awkward, and we didn't anticipate that he would greet us. However, he approached our table that day, congratulated us on our wedding, and apologized for not coming. He explained that it was only because of the situation between him and my sister, and since he was chit-chatting, we were courteous to him as well. My husband then joked that he might as well have come because my sister didn't show up at that point, and he began to look very perplexed, which is how we started discussing what had happened around. Apparently, she had been delaying the dates of the mediation sessions in order to prolong the divorce process. She gave the excuse that she was too busy preparing for my wedding, which is why her ex-husband appeared very perplexed when he learned that she hadn't even gone. He was surprised that she was suddenly interested in my wedding, but he didn't want to confront her. After he told us this, we explained what had actually transpired around the time of the wedding, why she hadn't attended, and how she had spread all those rumors about me persuading him to leave her, and other things. He was actually shocked that Pam had done any of this, and we discovered the true reason. He accused her of trying to postpone the divorce proceedings because she was afraid of leaving him, so he handled it as patiently as he could. We knew that their divorce was due to more than just the fact that she wanted to become a mother, and he didn't want children. They had been fighting about it for months. Her ex-husband told us that after some time, he had begun to take her point of view into consideration and had nearly changed his mind, but that on the day he chose to speak. with her about it, she said something that caused him to reconsider his decision to be with her. First of all, she seemed to be thrilled when he told her that he was finally ready to think about having a child. She then joked that even if he hadn't been ready, he would have had to accept it sooner or later. When he asked her to explain, she revealed that she had apparently stopped taking her birth control pills and that she had never told him about it. If they had kept doing that, she might have eventually gotten. She told him that he couldn't stay with her, which was the real reason for their last argument. However, she lied to us and claimed that they had been fighting over whether or not they wanted children. Once more, she attempted to make it seem like a joke, but it didn't lessen the impact of the situation. She then intended to let him handle it, which is so twisted that I can't even begin to process it. After that talk with her ex-husband, my husband and I were much clearer on why she had been acting so irrationally during the wedding, because she knew that she was getting divorced due to her own fault, even if she had done the foolish thing with him. This was the seriousness of what she was actually trying to do, which was basically just trying to baby trap him so that he would absolutely have to come to terms with the pregnancy whenever it happened. She could have simply kept quiet about the pills and other things, and then nothing would have happened, and she would have been having a child with her husband. However, she ruined everything for herself, and then she took it out on me. After learning all of this, my anger and bitterness toward her grew even more. I could have contacted my parents and other family members and told them about it, but I chose not to because by that time, I was already not speaking to anyone who had declined to attend my wedding. To be honest, at that point, I just wanted to move on, so I chose to keep my mouth shut and carry on with my life. Nevertheless, I truly don't feel sorry for what I said, because I genuinely think it's a good thing that she hasn't been able to have children yet. Because I seriously doubt that, given her psychotic tendencies, she would be a good mother. All to do it well. And I also find it pretty creepy that she and my parents are trying to get in touch with me just because I'm pregnant. They want to play happy family with my kids, but that's not happening right now, and I don't think it's necessary for my baby to have two mothers. Even my husband and my in-laws agree. But the only reason I'm reconsidering is because of how everyone has responded to my statement, including some of the people I've actually been friendly with. So am I correct in stating that my sister's inability to conceive is due to her inability to be a good mother? For those who are curious, no, Pam hasn't remarried and isn't dating anyone at the moment, at least not that I know of. I don't know a lot about her personal life, but based on what I've learned from friends and family, she is single, and her only desire at this time is to become a mother. As for why she is not interested in adoption or surrogacy, I believe it is because she believes that unless you have given birth to the child yourself, it is not truly your child. She has been trying for nearly 3 years, including during her attempt to conceive with her husband, and following her divorce, she had been attempting IVF with donors, but nothing has worked for her thus far. At this point, most people would start considering other options because it's obvious that something is wrong with her, but that's okay. On the other hand, I find it strange that she and my parents decided to try to patch things up after I told them I was pregnant, and those two mother statements have truly stuck with me. You guys also noticed the she is my biological sister, so I suppose her niece and nephew would be future blood relations. However, they had specifically stated that this baby of mine would be linked to her by blood, which is partially true. I just think it's strange to bring up this topic when trying to make amends with someone, and their actions just gave off strong baby stealer vibes. I feel like even if I do consider forgiving her and letting her interact with my baby, she will begin projecting and acting like the mother herself, and I can't allow that to happen. In any case, some of you were also wondering why I haven't defended myself in front of the rest of the family and why I haven't spoken out about the true reason. She and her husband got divorced. I simply don't think it's worth it. After the wedding, I discovered who my true friends were and who would truly support me in, although some of the family members with whom I get along well have told me that what I said to Pam about her not being able to become a mother was somewhat insensitive. They aren't really harping on about it and demanding that I apologize. I was really upset about it for a while and didn't think I should speak up about what the true reasons were, but I decided not to because I wanted my peace and quiet right now. A little too far, which is why I'm worried because these people have always supported me. If they also think that I was a little too harsh, then I guess I have reason to be concerned. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who left a comment on my post. I assume that most of you thought I was the a-hole, and I'm really appreciative of that. I have chosen not to apologize to Pam and my parents, and I'm going to keep ignoring them. They're clearly upset about it, and are playing the victim on social media and in real life by disparaging me to my family members once more. But that won't really have an impact on me, because I already don't talk to the people who are saying that about me. What's the worst that could happen? They'll come and cut me off even more, so I'm not too concerned about that. Sighed, but didn't like what I said, so I decided to talk to them and address what I said because Pam and my parents are making a big deal out of it. And almost everyone in the family is aware of what happened and what I said. I decided to contact the people who actually met me and let them know that whatever I said was said in the heat of the moment. That is something I cannot deny, but it doesn't change the fact that whatever Pam did to me during my marriage to gain attention was much worse because it was all prearranged and didn't happen in the heat of the moment. She had treated me cruelly and disrespectfully for years, and I refused to apologize for anything I said, which may or may not be true, at least for me. It's not the same thing, and my relatives seem to understand that. So those who were initially on my side are still on my side and have decided not to speak. Saying these things won't affect her the way she spread rumors about me did. For example, my family refused to attend my wedding because of what she said. It's not like my opinion will actually hinder her hopes of becoming pregnant in the future. About this at all, I'm okay with that. To be honest, all I want is for my pregnancy to be a happy and healthy one, and I want Pam and my parents to end the drama as soon as possible. I would really hate for them to drag this out, because then I'll have to reveal some facts, and they won't like that. Update 2. I don't want to be caught up on things like this right now, especially when I'm pregnant. It's been weeks since I last spoke to my parents on the phone, and in the 2 weeks since, they've been playing the victim and telling everyone in the family about what I said. They've been pleading with everyone to avoid me at all costs and to cut me off from everyone, even those who are currently friendly with me. In other words, they want their entire family to shun me. However, as I mentioned, I was able to work things out with the people who were friendly with me haven't been able to succeed, so it's clear that they didn't like it when they started posting negative things about me on social media. Although they haven't specifically mentioned me, I know that the majority of their posts are about me. They've been discussing a certain family member who has always tried to ruin people's lives and has always been envious of Pam, which is why I made fun of her infertility while they were posting about these. I knew that none of that was true, so I didn't really care. But recently they posted that I was the one who had destroyed Pam's marriage. That really upset me because they were repeating the same lies they had told me around the time of my wedding. So this time, I decided to get back at them. I spoke to my ex-brother-in-law, and although we haven't really stayed in touch, we do wish each other a happy birthday and a happy holiday, so at least we are on good terms. I told him everything that was happening, and I asked if it would be okay if I posted about it. He said that I could, so I did, and I wrote about what Pam had attempted to do and the true reason for their divorce. Now that the drama has reached a breaking point, I haven't really gotten involved in it personally, but I have been getting a lot of texts, emails, and phone calls from everyone in the My Parents, and Pam have been very quiet, so I know they have nothing to say, but I'm sure they'll find their words soon enough. It's just surprising that, despite everything, no one from the family has bothered to apologize to me, which is exactly what I expect from people like them. Family members have asked me if it's true and told me to take it down. Some people have even accused me of spreading lies about Pam once more, but I haven't responded or been engaging. That's okay. I don't really care. My main objective was to expose Pam for the type of person she is, and I believe I've done so. Now, I'm just going to relax and wait for update 3. A few days have passed since my last post, and today, Pam and my parents finally contacted me to say that they were willing to apologize to me, but only if I would remove that post. Apparently, the rest of the family has not. It's surprising that members of my family were so quick to jump from the hate on me bandwagon to the hate on Pam bandwagon. They have apologized to me, reached out to them, and called them out on their behavior. They say it's really wrong of them to paint me in a negative light when Pam was the one who caused the divorce, not me. They have been lying to everyone in the family for years, and it has ruined my relationship with them. Bandwagon, but as I previously stated, I don't expect any better from these individuals who were so quick to assume that I was the cause of Pam's marriage breakdown. Of course, they will now assume that she did it herself, but they won't apologize to me, and the majority of them have stopped texting me. Additionally, no one wants to know if I was telling the truth, and no one expects me to remove that post either. Nevertheless, I told my parents, and I told Pam, that I would leave that post up until I felt like it. And now that they had contacted me via email, Their apologies meant very little to me. I blocked them and they didn't get back to me. But this morning, I made the decision to remove it because I didn't want to violate the integrity of my social media accounts by sharing about these unimportant people. As I mentioned before, I wanted to have a happy and healthy pregnancy. My husband and I are content because we have friends and family who care about us, and that's all we really want. I don't really care what my parents and sister are doing, and after this episode, I hope they will realize that I don't want anything to do with them. Journeying and seeking revenge on people who don't even matter to me anymore is not conducive to that kind of thing, and I think that's punishment enough for them. That's all I have to say about it. I don't think they'll get in touch with me anytime soon, given what occurred. So I suppose this is it. They should avoid me in the future. I appreciate all of the responses to my updates, helped me out, and advised me on my postings, which is a true indication of a great deal to me.